Education and Strategic Partnerships, Registrar, the University of Nigeria, Provost of the College of Medicine and of the Postgraduate College, Dean, Faculty of Clinical Sciences, Deans of all the faculties and of students, Directors of Institutes and Centers, Heads of departments, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, both physically present here today and all those that have joined virtually. The 473 University of Ibadan Inaugural Lecture will be delivered by Professor Mayowa Owolabi of our Department of Medicine on behalf of the Faculty of Clinical Sciences. Professor Mayowa Owolabi was born on the 17th of November, year of our Lord, 1973, into the family of Lepa Felent and Florence Munisa Owolabi at Aisheba, Ekiti. He shared the same birthday with the University of Ibadan, 17th November. He attended St. Cyprian's Primary School, Aisheba, Ekiti, from 1978 to 1984, and Aisheba Community Secondary School from 1984 to 1988, where he spent only 4 years instead of the 6 years due to double promotions. He was admitted to the University of Ibadan to study medicine and surgery in 1989-1990 session. He graduated with an MBA degree in 1997 as the best student in medicine, Part 4 MBBS exam. Professor Owolabi also won the Inaugural Prize in Medicine and Radiology. He was appointed a house officer at the University College Hospital from 1997 to 1998. He later worked as a medical officer and a youth worker at the General Hospital, Quadrangle, from 1998 to 1999. He was admitted into the residency training program in neurology in 1999 and subsequently obtained the fellowship of the National Postgraduate Medical College of Nigeria in the year 2002. It is a record that Professor Owolabi had the best results at the National Postgraduate Medical College of Nigeria, Part 1, Faculty of Internal Medicine Examination, and he won the Dr. A. Owolabi Endowment Prize for the best candidate in Part 2 FMCP exams. Professor Owolabi holds a master's degree in biomedical education from the University of Ibadan, the year 2009. He was awarded a doctorate degree in medicine in 2010 by Charak University of Medicine, Humboldt University, and Free University, Berlin, Germany. Professor Owolabi worked briefly as a consultant neurologist at the Federal Medical Center, Abeokuta, and joined the Department of Medicine, College of Medicine, University of Ibadan in 2006. as a lecturer grade 1. He was appointed consultant neurologist at the University College Hospital, Ibadan, in 2006. Promoted senior lecturer in 2009 and flew to the rank of professor of neurology in the year 2014. He has served at the University of Ibadan several capacities. Professor Owolabi was served in postgraduate Faculty of Clinical Sciences between 2012 and 2014. Congregation representative to Senate of the University of Ibadan. He served as permanent director, Center for Genomic and Precision Medicine, University of Ibadan in 2016. Professor Owolabi was elected Dean of the Faculty of Clinical Sciences of this university for 2018, a position he still holds till date. Professor Owolabi is a recipient of two many international awards, and we'll just mention a few of these. He was awarded the DRA Research Scholar and Clinical Fellow at the Department of Neurology, Germany, in 2004. He won the 2011 AUTWAS Young Scientific National Award and the IAFP Young Physician Leader Award. He also won the Inter-Academic Medical Panel International Award for Young Physician Leader in 2011. He won the American Academy of Neurology Paratusi Advocacy Leadership Award in 2012 and the World Congress for Neuro Rehabilitation Early Career Development Award also in 2012. Obviously, 2012 is very significant year. Professor Owolabi holds the fellowship of several bodies, including American Academy of Neurology, the Academy of Science, Nigeria, the American Neurological Association, and the Royal College of Physicians. As a co-investigator and principal investigator, he led two national institutes of health funded grants. A strong investigative research and education network, which is the largest study of stroke in Africa, with over 10,000 subjects. With groundbreaking discoveries of novel risk factors for stroke on the African continent. Also, the tailored hospital-based research to improve vascular events after stroke, which was the first randomized controlled trial of multi-pronged intervention to improve blood pressure after stroke in Africa. Currently, Professor Owolabi is the principal investigator of the systemic investigation of blacks in stroke using genomics, SIPS, co-investigator of African Mayowa for precision stroke medicine. We also have the mentor, the African Academy of Science, Royal Society, and Global Challenges Research Fund grant. And there is also a key investigator in the first study aimed at unraveling the contributions of corporate number variations to stroke occurrences. Professor Owolabi is also co-investigator of many other grants that we can't begin to highlight one after the other. Otherwise, we probably won't be there today. Professor Owolabi is obviously an innovative scientist with several inventions in stroke medicine, including the seed of life model which he used to develop a multi-culturally validated quality of life measure for stroke. This is available in many languages globally. Also, the stroke quadrangle, stroke severity scale, stroke recovery spiral, cervical vertigo tetrad, and the implementation cycle. Professor Owolabi is indeed an entrepreneur and an aspiring scholar with a stroke phenotyping software patent duly registered and certified by the federal government of Nigeria. He is an associate editor of the BNC Neurology, a member of editorial boards of several high-impact neurology journals, reviewer of over 20 top journals, and a much sought-after speaker globally, with well over 120 scientific oral presentations. Professor Owolabi is a recognized global leader in stroke medicine. He is regional vice president, World Federation of Neurorehabilitation, Sub-Saharan Africa, and pioneer of the first center for neurorehabilitation in East, Western, and Central Africa. Professor Owolabi is a member of the steering committee and co-chair of the African Stroke Organization. Presidium member is also co-chair, Joint Publication Committee, Global Alliance for Chronic Disease. He is permanent director, Center for Genomic and Precision Medicine, University of Ibadan, and lead co-chair, the WHO Lancet Neurology Commission on Stroke, among many others. Professor Mayowa Owolabi has mentored and supervised many undergraduates and postgraduate trainees, including over 30 residents, and has supervised 8 doctoral theses to completion. He is widely published with over 245 publications. Mostly on stroke, in peer-reviewed journals including the Lancet, New England Journal of Medicine, Science, and other highly rated journals. Our inaugural lecture today has a Google Scholar citation of 40,000 and H index of 58. It is testified that Professor Mayowa Owolabi is a devoted Christian and is happily married to Mrs. Foster Christiana Owolabi, and the marriage is blessed with 2 wonderful children, Owolabi and Daya. Others will come. It is my pleasure to invite Professor Mayowa Owolabi to present his inaugural lecture titled Exploring the Stroke Quadrangle through the Transomics and Spiritual binoculars, 2 wings of an eagle. Professor Mayowa Owolabi.
Good afternoon, the Acting Vice Chancellor, DVC Admin, DVC Academic, DVC RIF, Registrar, Librarian, Provost of the College of Medicine and of the Postgraduate College, Dean of the Faculty of Clinical Sciences, Deans of other faculties, and of students, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It is a great privilege to give this inaugural lecture on behalf of the Faculty of Clinical Sciences, College of Medicine, University of Ibadan, I thank the Acting Vice Chancellor, Professor Adebola Ikonla, and the immediate Past Vice Chancellor for this golden opportunity. I feel highly honored to be the 6th inaugural lecturer from the flagship Department of Medicine of our great university since its inception in 1948. I salute my predecessors in this regard, namely Professors Francis, Falashe, Uniyi, Kadiri, and Salako. This lecture describes some of my key contributions to the knowledge development ecosystem, which I profess as a professor. Knowledge expansion and application is a power that propels societal development, process which tower in our ivory towers. The duty of man is to acquire, produce, and apply knowledge. This lecture highlights how to live a meaningful, high-quality, and impactful, healthy, stroke-free life. Herein, you may discover some of the secrets of purposeful living, longevity, and immortality. On the voyage of discovery. We are all on the voyage of self-discovery and discovery of the knowledge hidden in the universes. In this voyage, the brain, the most important human organ, which houses the mind, plays a major role as the central processing unit of information exchange between us and our physical, social, and spiritual environment. Hence, my interest in neurology, a study of the brain and the rest of the nervous system, its function and dysfunction, and solutions to its dysfunction. Symbolically, I was on the ship Discovery during my visit to the University of Dundee, Scotland, for my training in epidemiology and global health. This experience rejuvenated my voyage of discovery and impact in neuroepidemiology and global health. For a voyage, a map is needed. My first major academic article was published in the Archives of Neurology and titled Mapping Africa's Way into Prominence in the Field of Neurology. It attracted an editorial from the 2007 President of the World Federation of Neurology titled The Wind of Change. On the voyage of discovery, my first major encounter was an intriguing case of Delino tetrad, which led to my first authored publication. Another important intriguing quadrangle along my voyage this time, proposed by my humble self, is the cervical vertigo tetrad, which comprises episodic vertigo resulting from head rotation in the presence of vascular risk factors and cervical spondylosis. I discovered that this syndrome can be relieved by limiting rotational occlusion and control of vascular risk factors. Globally, while cervical vertigo is not so common, vascular risk factors which predispose to stroke are very common. Thus, stroke is the second leading cause of death globally. According to reports from the World Health Organization, Africa bears the highest global burden of hypertension, a leading vascular risk factor with a prevalence of 46%. In Africa, the alarming prevalence of uncontrolled hypertension, 93%, and other emerging vascular risk factors makes stroke a leading cause of death in Africa. Stroke is a dysfunction of the brain due to sudden rupture of blood vessels with bleeding into or around the brain, or blockage of blood vessels with loss of brain tissue. Depending on which part of the brain is affected, it usually manifests with sudden facial weakness, arm and or leg weakness, and or speech disorder, or other symptoms which require timely intervention, fast. At least 1 out of every 4 individuals who develop stroke in their lifetime. Every minute, at least 1 Nigerian and at least 6 Africans develop stroke. Africa is the global capital of stroke, with leading incidence, prevalence, and case fatality, and the burden continues to increase. In contrast to declining stroke rates in several developed countries, the incidence of stroke in Africa, including stroke in the young, has risen substantially over the last decades. This rise can only be expected to continue unabated unless appropriate evidence-based interventions are promptly instituted. The motivation to overcome this leading burden of disease in Africa prompted me to propose the stroke quadrangle. The stroke quadrangle in my career, the quadrangle comprises epidemiological surveillance, prevention, acute care, and rehabilitation. This quadrangle is now being used by the World Health Organization, World Stroke Organization, Lancet Neurology Commission on Stroke, which I'm privileged to lead. The first pillar of the stroke quadrangle, Transomics and Spiritual of stroke in Africans. Mr. Acting Vice Chancellor, sir, epidemiology is the study of the burden distribution, determinants, and outcome of diseases. Understanding the vessels of the brain is paramount to the epidemiology of stroke. I discovered and was the first to publish the novel findings of differential diameter and flow velocity relationship in the anterior versus posterior cerebral circulations related to arterial wall shear stress, which could be targeted for preventive and therapeutic purposes. A fundamental aspect of the first pillar of the stroke quadrangle, which is pivotal to development of new prevention and treatment solutions, is the evaluation of risk factors for stroke. Among African hypertensive patients, we discover some neurovascular imaging markers which can be targeted for stroke prevention. Siren project. Some risk factors for stroke globally were discovered in the interstroke study, in which I was a co-investigator. However, the risk factors for stroke in Africa were not well characterized. To address this gap, we pioneered the largest ever study of stroke in Africa, the Siren study. Siren was designed to catalyze stroke risk identification and reduction in Africa. With over 160 investigators across Africa, Europe, US, led by my own self, and over 9,000 subjects already enrolled, and over 10,000 community dwellers screened for free for vascular risk factors, and the largest neural bank in Africa with over 160,000 biological samples stored for Transomics studies. The Siren Odyssey is unraveling the unique genetic and environmental risk factors for stroke in people of African ancestry. To achieve this using a case-controlled design, we developed tools for valid and accurate phenotyping of cases and controls, including the QVSFS and a software for phenotyping stroke called Access. Our first analysis in about 4,000 participants revealed 68% of strokes were ischemic, while 32% were hemorrhagic. Most of the population burden of stroke was accounted for by 11 potentially modifiable risk factors. In descending order of population attributable risk as follows: hypertension, dyslipidemia, regular meat consumption, elevated waist-hip ratio or pot belly, diabetes mellitus, low consumption of green leafy vegetables, stress, added salt at table, cardiac disease, physical inactivity, and chronic cigarette smoking. These findings, published in Lancet Global Health, attracted an editorial from the journal. Daily consumption of green leafy vegetables was substantially protective against stroke. Daily consumption of green leafy vegetables reduced the risk of stroke by 73%, while weekly consumption reduced the risk of stroke by 30%. Green leafy vegetables was protective against stroke, all types of stroke. This finding for hemorrhagic stroke, published also in neurology, also attracted an editorial. Regular consumption of green leafy vegetables was protective against all types of stroke in men and women of all ages, indeed against severe stroke. We are still exploring this intriguing observation to identify which type of green leafy vegetable and which inherent compounds provide the best protection. Notably, higher monthly household income was independently associated with stroke and was also associated with increased salt and meat intake, but decreased vegetable intake in cases, suggesting that poor dietary choices might be influenced by higher income level. Using data from Siren, we developed a stroke prevention manual in collaboration with the Oyo State government, comprising effective ways of preventing stroke at community level. We recommended every adult citizen should have their blood pressure checked at least 4 times a year. The normal blood pressure should not be more than 130 millimeters of mercury. In order to prevent stroke, people diagnosed with hypertension should take their prescribed medications and monitor their blood pressure frequently for life. High fat content in blood. 2 major forms of cholesterol found in the blood are LDL cholesterol and HDL cholesterol. The LDL cholesterol is bad cholesterol, whereas the HDL cholesterol is good cholesterol, which has a protective effect. Check your cholesterol at least twice a year. Your fasting LDL cholesterol should be less than 100 milligrams per DL, while your HDL cholesterol should be above 40 milligrams per DL. Blood sugar should be checked at least twice a year. If you have not eaten before the test, that is fasting sugar, your fasting sugar level should be less than 126 milligrams per DL. If you need to be on glucose-lowering medication, diet, and exercise. Obesity implies being excessively fat, especially around the abdomen. Obesity is associated with increased stroke risk. Check your weight at least once every month. Check your body mass index. Your body mass index should not exceed 25 kilogram per meter squared. Measure your waist circumference. Your waist circumference should be less than 102 centimeters in men and 88 centimeters in women. If higher, please see your doctor, dietitian, and physiotherapist. Sitting for a long period can lead to weight gain. It's a misconception that being fat and pot belly is a sign of wealth. Avoid pregnancy in men. It delivers bad children, which kill or maim their father. Bad children like stroke and heart attack. Eat less and exercise more. High income should mean better living and healthy eating rather than poor eating habits. Your income should not change your eating habits for worse. Eating fast foods should be discouraged. Stress can be caused by both good and bad experiences. Minimize and manage stress by relaxation and recreation, improving internal coherence and external harmony. Heart diseases can increase the risk of stroke. Symptoms of heart diseases include shortness of breath, getting tired easily, palpitations, and leg swelling. Any individual with such complaints should see a physician. Avoid smoking. Avoid passive smoking by avoiding areas where people smoke. Consume green leafy vegetables of all varieties. You are encouraged to create a home garden. This would facilitate the regular supply of fresh vegetables. Exercise regularly, 30 to 40 minutes per day, is strongly recommended. We observed poor awareness of stroke, its risk factors and warning signs in Ghana and among hospital workers in Nigeria. Therefore, we developed a stroke dance video and a novel stroke video documentary titled Combating the African Stroke Epidemic, Getting Results Through Synergy for Stroke Advocacy Training and Capacity Building. We have utilized these tools to successfully educate non-neurologist health workers, over 20,000 people in communities, churches, and mosques in Nigeria and Ghana. This documentary also has sections for engaging religious leaders, policy makers, health care managers, and the media. In addition, Al Jazeera television features siren activities on stroke in West Africa. We are planning to work with actors, social media influencers, and entertainers to make our messages go viral. We explored other biomarkers and genetic risk factors for stroke in people of African ancestry. Among West Africans, we demonstrated good diagnostic properties of promising serum biomarkers for stroke, including glial fibrillary acid protein. We also explored interplay of racial and geographical factors for stroke. Hypertension and diabetes mellitus was higher in people of African ancestry but lower in European ancestry. We found that interleukin-6 was significantly associated with ischemic stroke in men. This association supports a pro-inflammatory hypothesis in blacks, which may be connected to previous exposure to infections or air pollution. We are also the first to report an association between lipoprotein 1 and stroke. This has been confirmed by other researchers. Conducting stroke transomic studies in Africans is important to substantially advance the global effort to discover novel loci and understand the pathogenesis of stroke for several reasons, including the fact that this is an unexplored population with high heritability for stroke and high resolution for fine mapping. We are currently doing this in ischemic stroke and plan to do so for hemorrhagic stroke. SIF's genomics study is set to discover, validate, functionally characterize novel genetic variants associated with ischemic stroke in people of African ancestry. This will substantially facilitate the understanding of the molecular mechanisms of ischemic stroke, thereby enabling the emergence of a new array of targeted diagnostic and prognostic tools and interventions to reduce the burden of stroke globally and especially in people of African ancestry, in whom the burden remains disproportionately high. In the FLAIR grant, we are exploring the genomics and epigenetics of vascular cognitive impairment among Africans. After a rigorous process, including accurate phenotyping, quality control, genotyping, and imputation, with over 40 million variants per individual, we have unraveled over 20 unique SNPs associated with ischemic stroke among Africans. These SNPs are currently undergoing functional characterization. Using artificial intelligence techniques, we will develop a polygenic plus environmental risk score for individualized stroke risk prediction among people of African ancestry. Our community engagement core identified a keen interest and receptiveness in the community for research to uncover genetic basis of stroke. Our communities are already yearning for point-of-care devices to foretell the quantitative risk of stroke, combining genomic and environmental risk factors, and we are working towards this. In summary, the Siren-6 genomic study is discovering and exploring potentially modifiable genetic pathways to stroke traits that may be common to people of African ancestry. Siren is substantially enhancing our understanding of factors that could be addressed to improve stroke outcomes and possibly other vascular diseases in African ancestry. Siren has one patent, over 75 publications, over 40 conference presentations, numerous awards, and is playing a central role in the fight against stroke in Africa and globally, with several awards, including Bruce Schomburg Prize awarded twice to our investigators, Best Researcher Award awarded to one of our investigators, 2020 Paul Dudley White AAN Award, and numerous grants, including African Rigorous Innovative Stroke Epidemiological Surveillance Grant, which is the first of its kind for e-surveillance of stroke in Africa, which could be a model for the whole world to follow. Also the CLEAR grant, and of course a lot of landmark publications. And at the global stage, we are already in discussion with France and African head of states in planning of future city and other meetings to translate our findings into policies. The Siren Share Consortium is spearheading a revolutionary genomic epidemiological study of cardiovascular diseases in Africa through the share resources, which involves over 55,000 Africans, which I pioneered as first share, and which is similar to the UK Biobank and the China Kajuri Biobank. I'm also a member of the African Population Cohort Consortium, which is to be funded by over 6 major international research funders. The knowledge of risk factors derived from therefrom will be useful in designing precise stroke and cardiovascular prevention programs for Africa. Moreover, we play a major role within the International Stroke Genetics Consortium and will be co-hosting the next ISGC meeting in collaboration with the University of Bordeaux, France. This is the first time this program will be co-hosted by the University of Ibadan or by an African institution. The program is designed to focus on the significance of stroke genomics in African ancestral populations, as we are all Africans under the skin, as shown by evolutionary genetics. Therefore, standing on the first pillar of the stroke quadrangle, we have demonstrated the key risk factors which can be targeted for stroke prevention among Africans and lay the foundation for transomic and precision medicine of stroke and cardiovascular diseases in people of African ancestry and beyond. The second pillar of the stroke quadrangle, which is prevention. Mr. Acting Vice Chancellor, sir, in a first of its kind implementation science trial on stroke in Africa, we tested in a randomized control trial whether Thrive's intervention would help with blood pressure control in those with stroke. At 12 months, indeed, we found that among the intervention group, there was a systolic blood pressure decrease of 11.7 millimeters of mercury, but there was also a similar decrease of 11.2 millimeters of mercury in the control group. As text messaging and modest financial incentives were the common elements between both treatments, and we will conduct further studies to establish whether these measures alone can improve blood pressure control after stroke. As part of a team of global stroke experts, we recommended that priority in the stroke prevention strategy should be placed on reduction in exposure to CVD risk factors for the whole population across the life course, with the focus on behavioral and lifestyle risk factors, which is the responsibility of individuals and governments. We are also reinvigorating the fight against hypertension in Africa through healthocracy, health of the people for the people by the people, working with the World Hypertension League. The third pillar of the stroke quadrangle is acute care, and among Siren acute stroke patients, the presence of any atrial enlargement was the only independent ECG predictor of death or disability in 1 month. To reduce mortality as a model for acute care services, we are currently developing a framework for acute stroke care with the support of the management of the University College Hospital Ibadan, which is going to come into fruition very soon. Fourth pillar, stroke rehabilitation and whole person medicine. Acting Vice Chancellor, sir, whereas the art and science of medicine has continued to evolve with the explosion of knowledge and advancements in this millennium, the primary needs of our patients, though sometimes implicitly utopian, remain essentially the same. A patient visits the physician or witch doctor to be made whole. Ideally, the patient wants to be irreversibly cured of his or her ailment instantly with a once-for-all, single-time, painless treatment without side effects that eliminates his or her diseases and prevents other diseases instantly and forever. If possible, the patient wants a cure for aging and may even wish to live forever or transit peacefully to continue living in the hereafter. The patient's best wish is to live a fulfilling, purpose-driven, meaningful life at the peak of Maslow's pyramid and Barrett's value model. Interaction with the doctor should restore the patient to his everlasting life course. Even though these expectations are utopian, medical science tries to fulfill them. Esoteric and odd as it may seem, even longevity genes are being sought after. Germline gene editing is work in progress, as cloning hopes to replicate and replace the individual, while paranormal science, informatics, and 4D virtual reality are being used to record life histories and experiences and replicate individuals who can interact virtually after their physical death. Even head transplant is being explored, but one wonders who owns the head or the body. Is it the donor or the recipient? Beyond the vegetative function, the higher functions of the brain, which includes cognitive function, creativity, and evolution towards homogeneous, is more of information stored in the connectome. A mere replacement of the anatomical structure cannot suffice as it may for other organs. Perhaps artificial intelligence systems deployed in advanced brain-computer interfaces may be used to augment specific aspects of brain recovery in the future. Forget not that the brain is intricately complex with billions of neurons and trillions of synaptic connections. Each neuron is as complex as a computer. So the brain is like an internet of billions of computers. If whole brain transplant becomes possible, the question is who owns the new brain? Is it the old body that owns the new brain, or is it the new brain that owns the old body? The transplanted brain will be devoid of the life force and personality features, social and spiritual connections of the former owner of the body. Voice of Jacob and of Esau. We are in the era of humanistic, patient-centered medicine. At the forefront of this rapid transformation is genomic and precision medicine and medical humanities. There is hardly any better illustration of this scenario where a patient is desperate for cure than stroke, which is the leading cause of disability, depression, dementia, and death. Moreover, within the stroke quadrangle, the rehabilitation pillar best illustrates the nexus of the physical and spiritual spheres in arriving at a solution. Until recently, medical science has been dominated by the diagnostic philosophy of recognizing the past but ignoring the whole. I join with several authors in celebrating the reemergence of interest in the spiritual dimensions of healthcare, old person medicine, which focuses as much on the spiritual aspects of healthcare as it does on the scientific ones. This shifts the paradigm from medicine of the disease to medicine of the old person. It aims to maximize health-related quality of life and help individuals discover, rediscover, and fulfill their purpose in life. Indeed, the impact of all patient-centered medical interventions must be assessed by robust quality of life measures based on a holistic model. Develop such a model, the concept of life, quality domains, essence, purpose must be properly and clearly understood. The definition of life can be approached through its expression. Life expresses in a living form because it has intrinsic will, energy, force, and is capable of self-development, self-determination, and purposeful interaction. A living form will continue in a state of rest or uniform motion regardless of the action of environmental forces. Intrinsic will and energy runs like a program in agreement with the epigenetic principle. The epigenetic principle states that anything that grows has a grand plan, and out of this grand plan the parts arise, each having its time of special ascendancy until all parts have arisen to form a functioning whole. Compare a mustard seed to a particle of sand. The sand already has the program of put on for a mighty oak tree. The advanced ability to reason and originate plans, creativity and intuition driven by perpetual purpose is what distinguishes human beings from other animals. The supreme purpose of the human being is to achieve true life, which is pure, perfect, and perpetual, and to dwell in infinite freedom and joy. Quality of life is the extent to which this supreme purpose is achieved. Sense of purpose in life is the possession of a principle of intentionality and central life mission that commands and energizes behavior with a tendency to derive meaning from life's experiences. Meaning is defined in reference to the degree of fulfillment of the central life purpose. This occurs through self-growth, evolution, realization of the life within by resonance. Quality varies proportionately with meaning, meaning with purpose. According to the seed of life model, quality may be read from the mind, meaning from the soul, purpose from the spirit. Quality is according to meaning, meaning is according to purpose. All deviations in life course and physiology must be restored to maximize quality of life through resonance to the original program. Health-related quality of life is the extent of multidimensional functioning and well-being with respect to the fulfillment of the individually determined purpose of life, aspirations, and expectations. Towards providing a holistic framework to truly assess the health-related quality of life of stroke patient, the seed of life model was developed, and it was derived from extensive literature and scriptural research and multidisciplinary consultations. The SOLM is a dualistic configuration of human being comprising the physical and spiritual spheres. The physical sphere includes the body and the mind, while the spiritual sphere includes the soul and spirit domains. The dualistic configuration may have implications for the understanding of out-of-body experiences, including the phenomenon of disembodiment, as a corporeal egocentric perspective, and autoscopy, including e-autoscopy. Who is seeing who? Meanwhile, the seed of life models bidirectional capability and upward mobility of the soul seems anticipated in the following statement by Plato. When the soul is firmly fixed on the domain where truth and reality shine resplendent, it apprehends and knows them and appears to possess reason. When perfect and fully winged, the soul soars upward. This upward mobility of the soul through divine reasoning, spiritual intelligence, and resonance as the supreme purpose of life is supported by Aristotle and Descartes. And cogito ergo sum, I think therefore I am, I'm thinking therefore I exist. If reason is divine, then in comparison with man, the life according to it is divine in comparison with human life. But we must not follow those who advise us, being meant to think of human things and being mortal of mortal things, but must, so far as we can, make ourselves immortal and strain every nerve to live in accordance with the best thing in us. For even if it be small in bulk, much more does it in power and what surpass everything. For man, therefore, the life according to reason is best and pleasantest, since reason, more than anything else, is man. This life, therefore, is also the happiest. The highest purpose of the biological life is to achieve the true life, to supernaturally evolve from Homo sapiens to Homo Deus. The achievement and fulfillment of this supreme purpose of life provides the highest possible quality of life. Crystallizing these concepts based on the seed of life model, the HR police was developed as a holistic, multiculturally validated, multidimensional measure. Is the first tool designed to assess the entire spectrum of health-related quality of life in stroke patients, and it is available in numerous languages with excellent psychometric properties. Using this tool, stroke had a multifaceted impact on health-related quality of life and was more pronounced in the physical dimension. Application of this tool in several countries consistently demonstrated a disability paradox with relative resilience of the spiritual sphere. This disparity supports the seed of life model's dualism. The resilience of the spiritual sphere forms the basis for the stroke recovery cycle, which draws energy from the spirit soul to heal the mind body. Using the HR collapse, stroke severity, disability, emotional status, and sense of purpose in life were identified as major cross-culturally consistent determinants of health-related quality of life. Based on these consistent determinants of health-related quality of life, we evolved the stroke recovery cycle. Spiritual well-being leads to better emotional and physical functioning. Improvement in functioning and quality of life will further reinforce the sense of purpose of being and becoming, thereby establishing a positive feedback cycle of recovery after stroke. With this cycle, the essence of stroke rehabilitation can be achieved. But there is hope for a tree. If it be cut down, that it will sprout again, and that the tender branch thereof will not cease. The blind can see, the dumb can speak again, the lame can walk again, and the broken can be made whole and blossom again. Now it is time to expand the philosophy of rehabilitation and investigate interventions beyond healing the body to healing the spirit. If we heal the spirit through the mind, we may also heal the body. Translation and impact of the quadrangle, the two wings of an eagle. Transomic lens of the binoculars. Mr. Acting Vice Chancellor, sir, two major developments have revolutionized medicine in the 21st century: the Human Genome Project, which sequenced the entire human genome, and the Precision Medicine Initiative. In absolute terms, the current precision medicine at the individual level could be defined as a specific application of individualized interventions based on the entire understanding of an individual's patient's full phenomic trajectory towards maximum sustained improvement. Tailoring the treatment according to the patient's size, not growth. Precision public health also tailors the intervention to the needs and characteristics of the population. Convergence of genetics, informatics, electronic medical records, MLs, and imaging, along with other technologies such as cell sorting, epigenetics, transcriptomics, proteomics, metabolomics, is rapidly expanding the scope of precision medicine with important prognostic and treatment implications. Implementation of precision medicine need each person's genetic profile to be obtained, raising complex ethical, legal, financial, social issues. Nevertheless, transomic science and biotechnology are critical to the development of new diagnostics treatments, including vaccines for emerging viral diseases like COVID-19 pandemic. Our team is spearheading this new field in Africa with the expansion of the Siren Neuro Biobank, the largest in Africa, and Siren Bioinformatics infrastructure to improve our capacity for defining the transomics architecture of stroke among Africans. Our GWAS findings of over 20 SNPs, including microRNAs after imputation, leading to transcriptomics. Our pioneering new work on stroke proteomics in Africans in collaboration with the University of Glasgow, and our new grant to pioneer the exploration of copy number variations in stroke will help us to identify molecular targets and develop precise tools for stroke prediction, prognosis, and new interventions for prevention, treatment, and recovery. We'll be utilizing transaccessory meta-analysis, big data science, artificial intelligence, and statistical modeling within the SHARE and ISGC consortia to achieve this. As featured by Nature Journal and Al Jazeera, we're pioneering the next chapter in African stroke genomics. Furthermore, we propose and are employing the principles of cardiovascular quadrangle in the SHARE consortium, and we observe that obesity at least doubles the risk of hypertension, and the risk of hypertension attributable to obesity increases with age. I'm key author in several GBD publications within the global body of diseases, within the GACD Council. We are proposing ways of pragmatically controlling cardiovascular risk factors using the cardiovascular quadrangle. This quadrangle is now being used also by the African Stroke Organization, the World Health Organization, the World Stroke Organization to combat stroke. I am privileged and humbled to be the convener and lead co-chair of this commission, the third commission in the entire 19-year history of the Lancet Commission, the Lancet Neurology. I take this with utmost humility and recognition that to whom much is given, much is expected. We are poised to revolutionize the global fight against stroke through the establishment of the Global Stroke Control Observatory and Burden Reduction Ecosystem, the GSCOR, based on the principles of the Council implementation cycle. Within the World Federation for Neurorehabilitation, as a member of the Presidium, I'm also spearheading the TREAT initiative, training, research, education, advocacy, and therapies. And I pioneered the establishment of the first Center for Neurorehabilitation in East, West, and Central Africa, co-pioneered the establishment of the Nigerian Federation for Neurorehabilitation and Foundation of the African Stroke Organization. Is the current Transomics precision medicine framework the old truth? In the proposed new paradigm of translational and implementation medical science, we should realize that it is not all in our physical genome. The spiritual aspect contributes to the overall phenomic trajectory. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, medicine has always been intertwined with the supernatural sphere. The physician oaths included Apollo the physician and Aesculapius, Hygiea, goddess of health, Panacea. Up till now, words like hygiene, Panacea are still being used in medicine. Indeed, the concept of spirituality is increasingly gaining grounds in medicine. By 2008, over 100 medical schools in the US engage in teaching and debate of spirituality in medicine. And this is a trend that is increasing and being replicated elsewhere. Therefore, a doctor is not complete without his doctrines. Clinical teaching is the bedrock of medical education. A patient-centered integrative approach using the SOLM's matrix would include different planes of examination: body, mind, spirit, soul, eco-social, internal coherence, external harmony, for the diagnosis, etiological diagnosis, treatment, and prognosis, as well as follow-up of the patients. In formally assessing patients' needs, typical questions in dealing with patients who hold these values will include: what gives my life meaning? What will happen to me when life ends? And so on and so forth. Spiritual assessment reclaims or brings us back to those compassionate caregiving roots of patient-doctor relationship, including healing through relationship by giving what? Logotherapy. All of these may not be possible without understanding of spirituality in medicine. PubMed citations on spirituality has indeed increased. In a systematic analysis of the effects of religious belief in health, involving over 1,200 studies, correlations between religious belief and greater well-being typically equal or exceed correlations between well-being and other psychosocial variables such as social support. Indeed, the spirit exercises a crucial but largely unacknowledged role in the promotion and well-being of the individual. As a concept, spirituality is the single most important experience of meaning and purpose that by its nature transcends the individual's personal circumstances, social situation, and the material world. Spirituality must be defined above religiosity, as detailed in 1984 Nobel laureate Archbishop Desmond Tutu's book. The spiritual is a core aspect of man, or the transcendental is the core aspect of man which transcends the physical, psycho-emotional, cognitive, and social aspects of our being. These aspects impact on other aspects of man's life. God at the center of spirituality. When we read the classics of the various religions in matters of prayer, meditation, and mysticism, we find substantial convergence. It is surely more acceptable and consistent with what God has revealed of his nature to say that God accepts as pleasing to him those who live by the best lights available to them, who are guided by the most sublime ideals that claim that all truth, all light, all sense of beauty, all awareness of and desire after goodness has one source, and that source is God, who is not confined in one place, time, and people. Indeed, God is the primordial source, energy, motivation, and epitome, peak of all goodness and virtues, pure truth, perfect order, excellent justice, true love, abundant life everlasting, infinite freedom and creativity, unspeakable joy, exponential, magnificent, timeless glory, and resplendent life without shadow.
So the life of man, hand of God in a mirror, consists not in the abundance of material possessions. We can only truly boast of knowledge of God, and this only to the extent we increasingly radiate and propagate the virtues permeating us and shining through us. Knowledge comes from God, the primordial energy, the immanent spirit, without beginning, without end, causeless source and origin of all. Man is the extension of the breath of God, the hand of God in a mirror, enveloped in mystery, the likeness of God's presence, discovering the cosmos of his presence, interacting with his absence. There is no middle faith or religion that says human beings are made for a destiny other than the high destiny of being in everlasting communion with the divine, however this may be defined. Whether the summum bonum, the greatest good, is to be absorbed into the divine, or to exist as distinct for all eternity in a wonderful intimacy, we still retain the distinctions between these two orders of reality. I therefore wish to conclude this section with the SOLM's sunlight of life diagrams, flow of life diagram, and inspiration cycle.
There is a spirit in man, and the inspiration of the Almighty giveth them understanding. But understanding or inspiration is not enough. True faith must be evidenced by good works. Perfect resonance and obedience to the will of God releases boundless energy and power. Re ipso cogna, pure.
All things work together for good for those that love God and are called according to his purpose. Therefore, let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works. Conclusion.
The two wings of an eagle. Mr. Acting Vice Chancellor, sir, for true patient-centered stroke, cardiovascular, and general medicine, both molecular, biophysical, and spiritual precision must permeate the entire clinical encounter, ranging from diagnosis and treatment to care and prognosis. Precision medicine implies discovering and delivering the complete right treatment at the right time, every time, to the right person. This enables the clinician to add meaning to life and life to years, and not just years to life. If we heal the soul through the mind, we may also heal the body. Furthermore, the pillars of the stroke quadrangle can be extended beyond the cardiovascular and non-communicable diseases quadrangle to a solutions quadrangle for everyday life. In all this, bring in the binoculars perspective, the two wings of an eagle, the visible and the invisible, the physical and the spiritual, this reason and resonance, temporal and everlasting, the precision and God's speed, science and spirituality.
The eagle stands and flies for vision, vigor, valor, speed, accuracy, determination, persistence, freshness, creativity, innovation, energy, and ascendancy. Both science and spirituality can synergistically be united in an approach that deepens our understanding of human being and human well-being. Understanding the whole helps us to heal the parts and make whole again. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts. I would like to end with two quotes on uniting the two cutting edges of the double-edged sword. Francis Collins. Francis Collins, leader of the Human Genome Project, director of the National Institute of Health, USA. Believing God can be an entirely rational choice, and the principles of faith are in fact complementary with the principles of science. Albert Einstein. Science without spirituality is lame, spirituality without science is blind. These are the two wings of an eagle, as the body continues upwards and forwards beyond the velocity of escape. I hope this lecture makes the lame walk, the blind see, and rekindles the inspiration cycle of ascendancy in you. Acknowledgement. I would like to start by expressing eternal gratitude to my parents, late Pa Clement Owolabi, a church organist and teacher. Ọmọ agogo mọ̀jà ọmọ òdòdó sílé pa oríkì náà nà. Ọmọ ẹlẹ́yìnkùlé àdéhùrè, who taught me the virtues of integrity and excellence, godliness and purity. And my mother, Mrs. Florence Munisola Owolabi, who loves me so dearly. And my siblings, including Professor Adebayo Owolabi, who is here present, who gave his inaugural lecture in 2019. My cousins and other members of the Owolabi dynasty who contributed to my upbringing. I thank the Olokeres, the Adaras, the Titiloyes, the Adeyemons, the Uleyes. I owe a huge debt of gratitude to my teachers and mentors, including Professor Adeshola Oguni, here seated, Dr. O.S. Owole, late Emeritus Professor Akinkunwe, Emeritus Professors Ogunlesi Falashe, Onodeko and Adeloye, as well as Professors Kadiri Fasamade Arije, Salako, Ola, Otebayo, George and Okunbi, late Professor Osuntokun, Professor Bademosi, Professor Adeuja. I'm extremely grateful to all of them. My deep gratitude goes to my numerous friends and collaborators, both in Nigeria and across the globe, including Professor Hamzat Shokunbi Malomo, my mentors, Professor Shokunbi Malomo, titans and tutors who inspire us, like Professors Bureje, Bayewu, Obibodun, Professor Lanion, one of my collaborators, Professor Oyeduni Arunobu. I also thank Professors Anu Beringa and Thomas Platts, Michael Banks, Michael Selzer, Michael Finkel, Professor Buzo Biageli, Dr. Rufus Akiemi, my collaborator, and members of the international funding agencies, World Federation for Neurology, World Food Organization, GCRL, UK Royal Society, National Institute of Health, NIHR, Nature Global Impact Award Panel, and members of various teams, research teams, CIRAX, Numeric, Arisis, Canvas, Arua, NCD Center of Excellence, Irene, Civ Genomics, Strives, GSCD, Dr. Zappa, Dr. Duakiemi, Professor Duna Anet, Daniel Lackland, and members of the Center for Genomics and Precision Medicine. I want to thank my research coordinators and program managers, including Ezini Ubere, Rahel Tage, Yemisi Agebe, American, and so on and so forth, and Kunle, Fakunle Taiwo, and leaders and members of the Blossom Center for Rehabilitation and the Stroke Control Innovations Initiative of Nigeria. I would like to appreciate Professor Zeman Tiwari, Blami Achinsky, Dr. Zimua Zhang, Valerie Feigin, Vino, George, Virginia Awards, Charles Rotimi, Dewa Adeyemo, Caroline Jenkins, Hugh Marcus, Raj Kaleria, Richard Walker, Sherian Fages, Professor David Good, Doma Edu, Michelle Ramsey, Professor Dola, Lufan Owolabi, Kolawole, Wahab, Fred Steven Safo, Regina Obiako, Godwin Osai Gbogbo, Dr. Abat Apalu, Bamidele Tayo, so many of them too numerous to mention. I acknowledge my mentees, including Joseph Jaria, Richard Oguntoye, Tomiwa, Makonjola, Ayotunde, Zalakuma, Iyaga. I also want to thank His Royal Majesty, Kabiyesi Apalukin, etc. His Royal Majesty, Kabiyesi Oba Olugboyemi Ajinese I, Aseni of the same. I thank General Dada, General Fayemiwu, Premier Engineer, and Mrs. Amadu, honorable members of the Oyo State House of Assembly, and other honorables present, honorable commissioners present, and who joined virtually. I want to thank members of the department, including Dr. Oga, my inaugural committee, LOC, and so many of them, Professor Odola, Owolabi, and so on and so forth. Thank you so very much. I I want to thank staff and members and elders and leaders of the Faculty and College of Medicine, including past deans, Professor Reverend Mayowa, other past deans, Professor Owolabi, and so on and so forth. I want to also thank the current and 12th Provost, Professor Ibadan, and other past provosts of the college, including Professors Olapade Olaopa, Akinka Omigbodun, Olusegun Akinka, Ayodele Falashe, the Foundation Provost, Emeritus Professor Oluwole Akambe. I also want to thank my faculty officer, past faculty officers, my current sub-deans, past sub-deans, members of special committees in the faculty, SPARKING, MAHAP, SPARK, Undergraduate Mentorship Committee, staff and leaders of the University College of Professor Abiodun Otegwari, Chief Medical Director. I also want to thank Dr. A. Matewi, CMAC. I also thank Professor Ilesoni, Professor Alonge. I thank leaders of NBCAM, NMA, NSNS, Oma, including Professor Adeni, Dr. Lamitoyi, Professor Adek, and I also thank Professor Adegbeso. I thank the acting Vice Chancellor and the Deputy Vice Chancellors here present. I thank the living legends of our university, including Emeritus Professor Ayobanjo, Adelola, Adeloye, Professor Isaac, Folonusho, Adewale, His Excellency former Minister of Health, Professor Adrian, Professor Gabriel Okunola. I thank the immediate past Vice Chancellor, Professor Abel Olayinka. I appreciate His Excellency, Engineer Raoul Olaniyan, Deputy Governor of Oyo State, here present. I thank Professor Gabriel Okunola, former President of the Nigerian Academy of Sciences. I thank former governors of Oyo State, including Dr. Victor Oloyo. I thank Chief Lake Agui, former Secretary of the State Government. I thank honorable commissioners here present. Finally, in all my heart and from the depth of my being, I wish to thank my queen and better half, like this Owolabi. It's truly one of my own pleasure, my friend. My girlfriend, my boyfriend, my confidant. With God, she helped me to be who I am today. She continued by helping me after my own parents. I thank my lovely boys, Dayo Owolabi and Owolabi, and I thank Inaugural. Finally, I cannot but be humble, knowing fully well that neither the understanding of the inspiration or the energy for the persuasion emanated from me. I dedicate this lecture to the author of life and the giver of knowledge. I give all glory and adoration.
Hallelujah.